All right, I think we're live. YouTube changed the setup for live streaming. So let me know if you guys can actually see what's going on here. I think we're good. I'll just wait a few minutes for people to come in. We've got Grout in here, Bad Brad in here as well. We're choppy right now. Remember when the audio is choppy? Yeah, I think the audio always is messed up at first, and then it just gets better slowly. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. Hopefully, the audio sounds like it has growth speed on it. It never ends, I tell ya. Yeah, I think it should be fine eventually, though. Jerome Kerr back again, PT Money. I thought I remembered seeing PT Money in here before. Let me take a sip of my water because I got the hiccups right now. Don't worry, I'm not hungover this time, so I'll have my brain's very good today. Do you stream over Wi-Fi or Ethernet? I stream over Ethernet. I think I just have pretty mediocre internet. I'm from Canada, so I'm gonna blame Canada for this. Is it getting any better, or is it still pretty choppy? Is it cold in Canada? That's exactly the reason why our internet sucks. The air molecules, the snow interferes with the internet band waves. It's very scientific stuff. I can't explain it to you right now. It's still choppy. Let me think here. Did I do anything different last time? I don't think I did. I remember it being choppy when I first tried it. Let's test out the audio first, though, in submissions. Let's make sure that's sounding good. Let me know if you guys can, if this is choppy or sounds bad. Does that sound like it's coming out of my speakers, or can you guys hear it like it should sound? I am wearing a hoodie. Which city am I from? I'm from Winnipeg. It's starting to sound a little bit better. Desktop audio not coming through. Oh, why does this always happen? Why is my life so hard? It's out of my speakers. All right, let me try to fix this again live. I should be reviewing by now, but unfortunately, this junk won't let me. Audio. Let's try this again. How about now? That should be good. What changed since last time? Absolutely nothing. YouTube changed the way you set up streaming, so you can't set it up and then go live. As soon as you go to hit live, it's gonna go live automatically. There we go, it's fixed. And not choppy anymore. We're good with the audio. You see, guys, I know what I'm doing. You just gotta let the internet warm up for 5-10 minutes. That's the way the internet works. It's just like a car. You gotta let it warm up. Welcome, everyone. We are back once again reviewing beats. So like you guys said last time, the system's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go back and forth with Bane's in here too, Q Beats. I'm going to go back and forth with like chronologic submissions when you guys send them to my email, as well as just random. I sort of want to give you guys the opportunity to have your beats heard, even if your emailing skills aren't up to par. So we'll just we'll figure out a healthy system for everyone. No housekeeping, I don't think. I was talking in my Discord earlier with Catalyst. I think we're gonna try to come up with a good idea for like an actual flip this sample type of competition. I think that'd be cool. And I gotta figure out some prizes to give you. I would have given you the stuff I would have got from Kyle Beats contest, but I don't even know if I'm going to get it. So hopefully he sends that through. Then maybe I'll just share it with you guys, since I'm not really in need of sample packs and whatnot. Maybe you guys would enjoy that more than I. Bane is moving houses literally this second, so he's only here for a couple minutes. Well then, let's make this entertaining as possible for a couple minutes. First off, let's start with thank you, Bad Brad. That was I was pretty surprised, actually. I remember just watching the video, in like the first 3 minutes they showed my song. I was like, oh, at least my song made it into the video. And I think I closed it down for like a couple of minutes, and then I checked what was in the top 3. I was like, oh, I wonder what made it in the top 3. And I was in there too. I was like, oh, that's surprising. I actually think some of the beats and some of the honorable mentions were like far better than mine. I think, yeah, it is what it is. I think I made a song specifically tailored to something that I thought he would like, whereas some of the songs in the honorable mentions, they sounded more technically interesting and like a lot more, they pushed the sample a lot more, but it sounded like something they would like, whereas I tried to make something that Kyle would like. Anyways, tried to vote for me, but my name wouldn't come up. I'm pretty sure we had like the least amount of listens and votes, but it was still enough to have it actually come through. I'm pretty sure I would have got lost in the rift and like no one would have actually heard it, not for you guys. So thank you very much. This is definitely your guys' help that helped me win. So absolutely, I would not be able to win without you guys. So you're a bunch of good eggs. I don't tell you guys that enough. You're a bunch of good eggs. So we'll start off with the first beat from the submission channel. And then I'll give you guys the keyword now for the email right above my head for the people that are here for the first time. Here's the instructions right up here. You're going to email me, and in the subject line, the keyword you're going to use is headphones. So you put headphones in the subject line, put the beat in the actual email, and if you want to include your Discord so I can shout you out in the submissions channel so other people can listen to your beat as well afterwards. I remember last time I wanted to link Aluarth's beat because I enjoyed that beat, but he sent a direct link. So if you have like a YouTube link or a SoundCloud link, that's probably the way to go. We will start off, Sir Richter. I'm pretty sure you are an egg. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I listened to, was it 6,000 songs? I thought it was like 4,600 songs or beats that were submitted. So anyways, the first beat we'll start off with is the one in the submissions. So where did these start? 813. We'll start off with this one here, a Mortal Kombat beat by Dishy Wishy. So I'm gonna write down what I think about it and give you guys in-depth as I can feedback. Let me know in the chat what you guys think of these beats as well while we hear them. And let's get at it. And thank you, Grout, once again. He is the best egg of all because he helps me out during my streams and helps me out with my life problems. So he's giving you guys the instructions there in the chat. So thank you to him once again. He's the one that set up my Discord. He's set up many things. So couldn't do it without him. So thank you, Grout. Let's listen to this beat now. Going Brazy.
That was pathetic. Execution. Get over here!
That was it. Short beat. You guys in the chat are saying it's a troll beat. You've got some SpongeBob dolphin sounds in there. I actually liked the use of these really unique textures in the beat. Those little weird bleeping and blooping sounds, and like the overall framework of the beat is sort of built on a very, it's like a synth type of beat, which sounds a little bit more unique than what I'm hearing a lot of nowadays. So in terms of the sound selection, pretty cool idea. Maybe a bit much on the dolphin sounds, but nonetheless, I'd rather people use unique textures for like small percussion noises than like just the same old, here's a side stick, here's a rim. So I'm not gonna get too negative on that aspect. I sort of like the idea of using weird sounds in your beat. Obviously, it's only like a minute 40 long. I would have been interested to hear how it would sound as a full beat, fully structured out. You had like the beginning section and you sort of had like a bridge, but nonetheless, the beat didn't really morph into something different. It was just like, to me, it sounded like here's a beat where I have an initial conceit of an idea, but I don't have enough to sort of keep the beat interesting for long enough. So I would have liked to hear the producer that made this, Dishy Wishy, maybe expand the beat out a little bit more just to see where they're at in terms of their overall arranging and structuring skills. But yeah, overall cool idea for a beat. I would just like to hear more, quite possibly. It's 100% a joke. I enjoyed the wacky sounds in it. The scratching on the synth that came in later was sick. Yeah, that's sort of, I think that's like a gross beat preset that you can use. Jerome Crow wants to hear Tupac on the beat. That is a Tupac type beat if I ever heard one. So let's go into the emails now. Listen to or see what you guys are sending over. We've got headphone as the keyword. I'm going to go more random today. So even if you missed out on the initial wave in, keep submitting because I still will jump around and listen to people that I haven't necessarily heard before. Dishy Wishy sent in the same beat in the in my email, so I don't think that was a troll unless he's going hard just to troll me. The one that we are going to listen to is from a young boy, up and coming off the bench, but he's ready to be an all-star. Let's put his beat in the Discord. His name is Drakuras, and he's got this beat called Petrol. Let's take a listen. Dishy Wishy said it's not a joke. was Petrol by Drakuras, who is in the chat. Yeah, obviously not a hip hop beat like Grout said's Four on the Floor in terms of its beat structure. So for those that don't know, it's like a kick on every beat. In terms of my thoughts and feelings on the beat, that's like amazing mixing. The stereo separation of the sounds was great. You had a good equal amount going on the left and right channel. Everything wasn't just squashed in the middle, which can be a very difficult thing to do. You really did a good job of making sure every sound has its own space in the beat and making sure there wasn't like some horrible overlap. So you did a great job with the mix. The structure of the beat was well done as well. You kept textures going in and out. That had sections where you had the guitar playing. You had another section where you had the more synthy type of section. You sort of decreased the amount of sounds in certain sections to bring the energy down, brought it back up with the main section. I guess my thought is, I don't know whether this would be like a hybrid type of beat where you'd want a rapper to use it. In that case, I sort of feel like you did a good job in terms of the amount of layers. If this is sort of like a standalone thing, I would have liked to hear like an even bigger section to really bring the energy all the way up. It sort of felt like there wasn't a section of the beat where I felt, okay, this is the hook section. This is where things get really big and live and energetic. But obviously, if that's your intention, where you don't want that section because your thought is, okay, I sort of want to leave room for an artist to use this. And obviously, I think you're doing the right thing by keeping it a little bit more minimal. And obviously, the beat is a little bit on the short side, 240. And so again, if this is your intention for an artist to use, that's an adequate amount. But if this is a full standalone song, I would have liked to see what else you could do to try to push the beat to be interesting for, you know, however long a sort of dance or house song is, 3-4 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. Overall, though, great job. I think you'd surprise me if you told me you just started making beats recently, because this sounds like you've been making stuff for a while. Interesting to hear what you say in the chat, how long you've been making beats for, but well done. Pat yourself on the back. Great beat. Jay Blake Production says, I was making a similar beat, but my Omnisphere will not load presets. You forgot which ones you were using. I recently upgraded my computer and none of my old presets work, so like tons of my old beats just won't load now, which is very sad. And I'm a sad boy now. Dark, how can I send you a beat? Right above my head. Follow those instructions. My Omnisphere is still trying to open from that one video that I released. All right, next up, let's take a listen to another beat from a young boy by the name of Nick. He says he makes beats because his email says Nick made beats. His Discord is Buttered Bagels. Is he in here? He is in here. Buttered Bagels himself has a beat called Maze. Let's take a listen to this little ditty. And let me know what you guys think. Drax says he's been making beats for 3 years. That's pretty good for 3 years. I definitely was making worse music when I was in this thing for just 3 years. So you're further along than me. Well done. Oh, it's done already. That was Nick. He's got Maze. I think overall, obviously, it's a short beat. I would have liked to hear more. It's hard to gauge just how much your skill level is at for your arrangement and structuring, where you're at in terms of that development of your skill set. The, I guess, feedback on the beat is the mixing on the drums could have helped the beat a little bit more. I sort of felt like the drums sort of got almost like washed out in terms of where they sat in the beat. Just overall, if you just brought up the volume, it doesn't necessarily have to get complicated with compression or nothing like that. The way I sort of think about beats is like there's almost like 3 planes of sound. So in the forefront, you have a sort of arrangement of sounds of whatever you want to choose. Typically in hip hop, that might be drums. So you'd want to keep that really dry. And then behind that, you sort of have another section where that might be your main loop, and that might just be a little bit further back. It doesn't sit in the forefront as much. And then all the way in the back, you have these small little sounds, these crazy reverb sounds that you have way in the back. I think you did a great job in terms of like the last 2 types of sections. I think the drums, if you just brought them up a little bit more and have that sort of first plane in terms of the overall beat, be a little bit more in my face, I think that would have served the beat really well. In terms of your sounds that you had in those sort of the middle ground and the background, those are really amazing. The sort of filtering you had on the vocal samples was awesome. I really loved the use of reverb on that. That was really great and expertly done, I would say. In terms of the overall structure of the beat, it felt a little bit avant-garde. It obviously didn't have a traditional structure to it. You had almost like a constantly changing structure to the beat, which might explain why the beat was a little bit more short. I don't know if you go down that route and you don't do like a traditional type of structure, obviously it's going to be difficult to keep things constantly moving and changing for like 3 minutes as opposed to just like a 1.5 minutes like you had. But obviously, if you just took the structure that you had and just doubled it, I probably would have been happy. So even as it is, even though your structure was avant-garde and the beat was a little bit short, I'm not going to penalize you and get angry and say that beat's sort of lacking just because you did a lot in that 1.5 minutes. So it does show me at least somewhat that you do have an idea how to keep the beat moving and keep it interesting and changing. So overall, well done. I think if you just played around with the drums a tiny bit more and have those be a little bit more in the forefront. You also had like the acoustic drum rolls in there, which also felt like they were a little bit weak in the mix. So just boosting that section up, I think would have this beat sounding next level. Can I turn my mic up? Is my mic loud or quiet? What do you guys think? Should I just shove it right in my mouth? I'll bring it a little bit closer. Actually, when I start knocking into this thing, it starts annoying me when I'm recording video, so I don't want to get too close. Nick Made Beats is in here. Let me know how long you've been making beats, Nicholas. You guys are trolling me again? Bad Brad? You're a mean guy. Alron L. Isn't that the guy that started Scientology? Or is that Elron Hubbard? Alron L. Hubbard? The instructions are right above my head if you want to submit. If you are new here. Yeah, a little bit louder. I noticed the volume was quite high. Anyways, let's keep it moving. I don't want to stress out over the mic now. Let's listen to a beat by a beautiful boy by the name of Be Fit My Friend. Oh wait, this is AZN Thug. He's having his beat heard once again. I think I remember him from last time. So we'll pop him in the Discord here. AZN Thug. What the hell's going on here? We got this beat called Dragon, a Chinese type of beat. So let's take a listen. Let's keep the racism down to a minimum, guys. We are an anti-racism chat or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, that was quick. Another 2-minute beat. A lot of short beats today for some reason. So I think I'm going to repeat some of the sentiments that you guys said in the chat. Overall, I think what I would say is that it obviously the cornerstone of the beat is that main loop. I assume that's a loop that you downloaded off of a Splice type of site or whatever. And you had some variation in it, which is nice to see. There were certain sections where you sort of tried to reverse the sample a tiny bit in certain sections, and you also had like a stuttering effect here and there. Overall, in terms of the arrangement, though, there wasn't like a huge overhaul in terms of the overall arrangement. There wasn't like a sort of A section and a B section. It still felt like you were looping the exact same thing, but you just obviously had little sections in the beat where there was a little bit of variation. So I'm going to commend you on that and say at least you're pushing yourself in that regard, but I still would like to see more complexity in the overall arrangement in terms of here's the verse section, here's the hook section that's going to feel a lot bigger, here's a bridge. Just try to push yourself in that regard to try to understand how to make a beat bigger, smaller, and try to change the energy level of a beat a little bit more. I think the beat would have been served a little bit better with a little bit more complexity to the drums. I think, who was it in the chat that said this would, I think it was Dylan. Yeah, he said, Dylan M said, I feel this would work better with boom bap instrumentation. I think the overall idea is something that I sort of agree with, in that the drums that you chose, they were very basic and very minimal. There weren't very out there types of textures. I mean, compared to like the very first beat that we heard with like the SpongeBob sounds in it and all these little cool sound, like these synths and stuff. You guys can sort of get the idea of what I was talking about, where obviously that might have been too much for your taste, but nonetheless, having these sort of out there unique types of textures that come into your beat can really help it become a little bit more, I guess, more of a unique beat overall. And so if you just have, the typical hi-hat, here's a typical snare, here's a typical kick, it's going to be very hard for the beat to sound interesting overall. I sort of think that's what Dylan was also reflecting. If the textures that you use for the drums are a little bit more interesting, that might have been something that would help the beat sound a little bit more unique as well. I think, like I said, a little bit more complexity to the drum sounds or even the drum pattern would have served the beat. And so, yeah, it's hard to gauge where you are at in your overall development. I do want to commend you for at least trying to create some variation to that loop, but I don't want to just let you rest on your laurels. I want to say push yourself even more to try to come up with the overall structure of the beat and not just have like a 2-minute beat where the same thing loops over and over again, where you just have these small little variations. I sort of do want bigger ideas and more complete, full thought out ideas out of you guys. So that's something that I want to push you guys to do. Hits nice, clean mix. That's true. I will say that there wasn't any like disgusting overlapping frequencies. It was a very clean cut mix. Again, though, I think part of the reason why is just because it was very minimal. It's going to be pretty easy to have all your sounds be very separated when all you have is a hi-hat taking up the high end. Then you have your snare, which is very thin because it's a trap snare. Then you have your 808 in the low end, and nothing's conflicting because the sample takes up that mid-range. So it's going to be a little bit easier to mix the beat if you have just a little bit less going on. Pitts Production is in the house. Julian Booker, he is in here too. How often do you have live feedback? Ask Swift Dreamer. I do this every 2 weeks. So usually I do this on Sundays, but I have a birthday party to go tomorrow. So the next one after this will probably be, where are we? On the 20, wait, where? Yeah, on the 20, no, not the 23rd, on the 30th. Am I doing something on the 30th? It's going to be the weekend of the 29th or 30th. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I have a birthday party on the 29th. So 30th is going to be the next stream. Let's keep it moving. One last beat for this keyword. Let's take a listen to a young boy. Got a heart full of gold. And you know what? Let's listen to... Oh, wait. I was going to listen to L. Ron Hubbard's beat, or L. Ron L. but he didn't include anything in his email. He just said headphones username, but he put his username in, put the subject line in, but forgot the beat. Typical L. Ron Hubbard. All right, we're going to listen to... No, I don't want to listen to that one. I think I already listened to that one. Here we go. Encore. That's the producer's name. I'll pop it into the chat. His Discord name is Sensei. He's got the... what's that avatar? Felix the cat? Wait a minute. It's the exact same guy. Are we getting submissions... Or did I just not copy and paste this correctly? No, I didn't copy and paste it correctly. I was about to accuse this guy of using multiple emails, but it's just my own incompetence. I apologize. But you got Santo Guerrero, Blanca. Let's take a listen. Another short one. All right, so that was Blanca by Santo Guerra. So in terms of my feedback, I think this is a sort of good example of somewhat what I was just talking about with the beat a couple seconds ago. Whereas this beat had like everything in my face. Like the drums were right in my face. That horn was right in my face. All the percussion was right in my face. The bass, obviously that's going to be in your face. I wouldn't say to reverb that out. But this didn't have that idea of like the different planes, where what I would have done if I was making this beat, I probably would have thrown that main horn loop somewhat a tiny bit back with some reverb, and then some of the percussion way back, or maybe introduce some other textures in the beat just to have the beat sound a little bit more 3D almost. Whereas this one just felt like a flat plane right in my face. So in terms of the mix, I think some work needed to be done there. I think the 808 was a little bit out of control. There was a section where I could even hear that the other instruments were getting sort of compressed down a bit. Maybe you put a limiter on your beat overall, and so the 808 was just so loud that nothing else had enough room to actually come through, and so the volume had to go down on those instruments, which is something that happens when you don't control the very, very low end of your 808. I did a video on like mixing trap beats, so you might want to check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. You really do need to control the frequencies of your 808 because that's going to take up a lot of headroom. And if you don't do that, the other instruments are going to get squeezed out once you put a limiter on top, because there's only so much room for the other instruments that the volume will go down on those just to make room for the 808. The beat's only like a minute and a little bit. It did sound like there was some variation in the beat, which is nice. It wasn't just the same thing over and over again. You did have a section where you dropped that horn loop. And so I'll say it would have been interesting to hear how you would have kept it going though. Overall, I mean, it's not, I guess another thing that I'll give a positive note to is that the percussion sounds that you use and the drum sounds that you use are a little bit unique. You had like a tambourine and like some shakers in there, which is something that I don't hear often. So, and they did sound natural. They did sound fluid. So that was well done. I think the other textures, the horn sound wasn't my favorite. It sounded very dry. Once again, it was like really in my face. Outside of that, there weren't many unique textures. So I think maybe going back to the drawing board and trying to choose different sounds and trying to play around with where they sit in the beat might be a good idea. And also controlling the 808 is also very, very important. What are you guys saying about that? The 808 almost like a Roland boost all the way up. The first note almost made me pause the track. I don't remember doing that. I remember making beats like this. Yeah, this does feel like a very introductory, like this is my first beat type of thing where you just get like a short little horn loop and you're like, oh, I actually made a horn loop. And then you throw some drums on top. You sort of play around with some percussion noises. And so obviously I'm not going to get too rough if this is one of your first beats ever. At least you were able to put a bunch of sounds together and make something that is a beat. You had a structure to it and it sounded like a beat. So that's at least something. Yeah, high energy beat. That is true. It was a high energy beat. Okay, I'm going to listen to one in the submissions. The next keyword is going to be, man, my apartment's hot. I'm going to change my shirt, but the next keyword is going to be gymnasium. I'll be right back because I'm going to change out of this sweater because it's too hot, and then we'll proceed. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. All right, a little wardrobe switch up. Let's take a listen to a submissions beat, and then we'll have at it with the next keyword. Let's listen to Catalyst. He submitted a cool loop to me, so I want to hear what his beat would sound like. right, so that was Catalyst beat called Sick Kick. So I think the beat would have been served better with a little bit of emphasis and de-emphasis on certain instruments. I think overall the mix sort of felt like there was a lack of high end in it. There was sort of nothing really cutting through. And so I think the reason why is because none of these sounds really had much of a high end presence. So you sort of, it's sort of hard to emphasize how important that those low end those high end frequencies are in order to get the sounds that you have in your beat to really cut through. I think what I would have done if this was my beat would be to really focus in on one instrument, whatever you choose. I think personally I probably would have chosen that horn and really have the high end cut through in that and really have that be like the centerpiece of the beat. So I probably would have put some distortion or saturation on top of it and really have that cut through and be the main focal point of the beat, and sort of have the other instruments be supplementary to that and sort of play around that instrument. The way you sort of mixed the beat and the way you sort of positioned all the sounds, everything sort of had an equal tonality to it with the piano, and like there's a little bit of a flute in there and the horns. It sort of felt like nothing cut through and was like the center focal point of the beat. So an example would be, I don't know if you guys heard that song Get Buck by Young Buck. This is like, I'm probably dating myself. It's a very old song that has a similar horn in it and just has that as a centerpiece and just so loud and aggressive. So I think the beat would have been served by just choosing one of the sounds that really have that cut through in the mix, and also working on the high end frequencies of some of the other sounds just to have a little bit more of an equal tonality to the beat overall. The drum pattern that you came up with was nice. The arrangement overall, you kept it varied, so that was a good thing. My takeaway from the beat is that if you just focused in on choosing which sound you want to be the shining star, put in the spotlight, and really focusing on making that sound in your face and having everything else be complementary to that, I think that would have helped the beat out a bit more. Who's triple emailing? Lunch Money, you're triple emailing me? What are you guys saying? If he sees a billion on the same beat, he's gonna skip it. You are right, Grout. I don't like naughty boys that try to flood my email box. Can't add too many more sounds though. The human ear can't handle much more than 3 different instruments. Yeah, for sure. I didn't really say to add more instruments. The idea was that you sort of need to make one have a larger emphasis and to de-emphasize some of the other ones. It's not a matter of this didn't sound complex or deep enough. My sort of thing was everything sort of was crowded because nothing had its own spotlight on it. There was no really central focal point in the beat. All the sounds sort of had a very similar plane, and nothing really stood out to me because of that. So if this is my beat, I probably would have chosen one of those instruments and had it cut out or have it really shine. We are at the Gymnasium Beats. Oh, we've got a lot of submissions here. I see some triple submissions, quadruple submissions by, who is this? Devin Williamson, Naughty Boy. No triple submitting. Actually, this other guy's Daniel Hamdar. That wasn't a double submission or quadruple submission. So we'll listen to Daniel Hamdar's beat. He's got this little beat here. It looks like a Joker themed beat from the Batman movies, for those that like Batman. So let's take a listen to Anarchy, Dark Joker type beat. This is going to be very spooky, so if you have kids, get them to leave the room because they might get scared. Let's listen to Daniel Hamdar.
I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. You see, I'm a guy of simple taste. I enjoy dynamite and gunpowder and gasoline. little emotion. And you see, in their last moments, people show you who they really are. They need you right now. When you don't, they'll cast you out. Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. I'm not a monster. See, their morals, their code, it's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
All right, so that was the Joker, making a little appearance in my stream. The little joke he's gonna do is get this video copyright claimed. That's an agent of chaos. He is, that Joker. So as for the beat, I think the main sort of idea of the beat, I like the textures that you used. The piano loop was great. I don't know if you programmed that yourself, or if that was just a loop, but good choice there. I really liked the way it sounded, and all the textures that you used around it complemented it. The drum pattern was good enough. I guess overall though, I guess you played a little sneaky trick here where you tried to use the Joker samples to mask a repetitive beat, but overall, just listening to it, it was essentially just the same loop playing over and over again, and then you had your drums on top, then you dropped the drums, and then you just played the Joker samples to create variation. And that might be a cool little trick, but nonetheless, there was no musical variation in the beat. There wasn't any like A-B section. It was literally just like drop the drums, here's the Joker sample, come back in. And so for me, I sort of do want to push you guys to actually try some different variations in terms of your musicality. I'm not sure whether there was a variation when you dropped the Joker, put the Joker sample in. It sort of sounded like there might have been like a different instrument playing. Maybe you programmed that yourself. But nonetheless, I don't think it's enough to just drop drums and then interject a sample in. You do need to push yourself to come up with some more musical variation. Interesting idea, but obviously if a rapper wanted to use this, they could not use a Joker sample. They'd have to get rid of it. And then once you're stuck with the beat itself, it's just going to be hard to have the beat on its own sound unique and interesting if you remove all the unique little things that you added into this beat that aren't musical. So that's my review of that beat. What did you guys think of it? The Joker quips bring out the life in the beat. The beats are just beats until the voice brings out the energy. Most times a beat will sound 100 times better with vocals. Yeah, that's true. But nonetheless, once you get rid of the vocals in this, what's left is my sort of thing. And I sort of do want you guys to try to push yourself to have more tools in your tool bag to try to create more variations in your beat and not rely on this beat will sound good once it has vocals on top. The best thing that you can do is try to make your beat sound good without vocals, and so once there are vocals, it'll sound even better. If the beat doesn't sound good standing alone and you sort of require vocals to be on top, you're going to be in for quite a pickle there. how can I submit beats on the Discord? The Discord submissions are closed right now just because the Discord's more meant for people that can't show up. They'll send me their beats beforehand, and I sort of listen to those, but less often. If you want your beats heard, right above. All right, let's take a listen to Surrey Kid. He was hee-hawing in the chat, but he goofed up, guys. He put gymnasiums, he put his Discord, but he didn't put the beat. Oh wait, the beat is the subject. So this guy's the true Joker. He's an agent of chaos here. He put the beat link in the subject. He's a wacky character, that Surrey Kid. So let's listen to his beat. His beat's called Light. So that was Surrey Kid's beat called Light. I think some of you guys in the chat are gonna already saying what my ideas are on this beat. Very repetitive. Obviously, it's a short beat. This to me sounds like maybe this is one of your first beats you've ever made. So the 808 pattern is where you tried to get freaky with it and try to get really out there. I think it was a bit much. I sort of like the idea of a beat more focused on the other textures instead of having the 808 do a lot of the hard work. The other texture you had in the beat, it sounded good, but I couldn't really hear it that much. I think it needed to be brought up. I think the mixing overall could have used some work. But if I had to give advice on where to start, I think just trying to figure out how you can take your sounds and just really focus in on where should they sit in terms of the overall mix. Your 808 was like sort of like really out of control, and I think maybe taking a step back and trying to figure out how you can work the other textures and make them be a little bit more of the star of the beat might be a good idea. Just because with this beat, it sort of felt like you just found a loop, or you maybe came up with it yourself, I don't know, and then you tried to do the heavy lifting with the 808, which just for me didn't really work. Beyond that, obviously you just loop the beat over and over again, so maybe you're not comfortable with the arranging skills that you have right now, so I'm not gonna sort of knock you on that if this is one of your first beats you've ever made. If it isn't, I'd implore you to push yourself hard and try to come up with some variation, because I think the beat was like 1.5 minutes and it just sort of started getting stale pretty early. So just focus in right now, if this is your first starting making beats, how to come up with a good loop, how to just come up with a good 4-bar loop, how to place your drums, or what should the 808s be doing, try to come up with that, and just focus in on getting good at that, and then try to move on to arrangement after that. Grout said the 808 was a bit too much. If you use the right sounds and the right combination, you don't have to EQ much all the drums. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want to be the star of the show. Sometimes the drums are going to be very in your face if there's not much going on in the beat. But yeah, you're right. I think if the sort of piano loop that you had in the beat was brought up and just sounded a little bit better, the other elements in your beat wouldn't need as much attention. But just because the piano loop that you had wasn't doing so much, the other elements that you were sort of forcing me to focus in on, just because there's nothing else to focus in on, that sort of really brought a spotlight on those, and those sort of had like a negative element to them just because the 808 was sort of just out of control. He really tried, says Lethal Beats. A+ for effort. Oh, he said that's his first beat ever, so you put a beat together. If that's your first beat ever, at least you're able to put a beat together, because the first beat I ever put together was real garbage. I didn't really understand drum structure, so at least you get drum structure. At least you were able to program everything in and sort of come up with something. So hats off to Surrey Kid if that's your first beat ever. Good start. But yeah, as for advice, focus in on just coming up with a good loop and focus in on that aspect of beat making. I wouldn't say don't stress out too much about overall arrangement as of right now. Horse. Someone submitted with the keyword horse. Even though this is a Discord of chaos for this week, that Joker influence is really getting into me. I'm breaking my own rules as who was that said that in the chat? The rules mean nothing anymore. Syed Met said that. But I'm not going to go with this horse beat of yours. There will be no horse beat. We're going to listen to Nate Odyssey. He's a young boy. His mother passed away from the plague, so now he's coming back to make beats. Does he have a Discord? Nate Dogg is his Discord. Nate Dogg. Wait, what the? That's not his beat. I forgot to copy and paste the YouTube thing. My apologies to Nate Dogg. The beat is called Golden Bonds by Nate Odyssey, a lo-fi beat, the first one of today. I enjoy lo-fi beats if they're done well. right, so that was Golden Bonds by Nate Odyssey. Starting off, I think I really like the drum programming in the beat. Otsalot in the chat also agrees. Yeah, I really liked the mixing on it. You had a good drum loop that you chose. I think you chopped it up, and so you did a good job of creating a cool rhythm with the drum loop that you had. It sat in the beat really well. It's sort of like in my face, which is exactly what you'd want with that type of beat. This is very reminiscent of like an old 90s type of beat where you had the loop playing for the hook and then you put that low pass filter on for the verse section. That's something that was very common in like the 90s with the Pete Rock era and whatnot. The hook had that sort of wonky synth in it, which I actually liked. I think someone said that it sort of felt like off key. It was just like not on key, obviously. But honestly, to me, if putting some little awkwardness in the beat, I remember RZA saying this during this one video where he was making music with the Black Keys. The idea of just like having not every single sound be in tune, in key, having some awkwardness, some sort of some of your sounds be a little bit off is sometimes a good way to create tension and also have like a sound sort of stand out and be intriguing. That's sort of what I felt with that wonky synth, that sort of spacey synth that you had in the hook. It sort of felt unique and it sort of stood out just because it was so different than the other elements, and it was also a tiny bit off key maybe, but nonetheless I sort of liked it. I think the one thing that I would say is that the switch up, I sort of liked the idea of it. I think the execution didn't really work. I'm not sure whether the sample had any other material for you to make a little bit more of a cleaner switch up, because the switch up that you did come up with, it felt very jarring. It felt almost like an entirely different beat right in the middle of this beat. Like the section that you came up with to rearrange and re-chop for the switch up felt like it was completely different. It sort of, in my opinion, it didn't really work for me. One of the things that I sort of like to do is try to make sure when you do a switch up, there are some elements that really still work with the original beat that you had. And so, yeah, that's just my critique on that. It just didn't really work for me. Nonetheless, though, great arrangement, great composition, cool textures that you used. Yeah, cool beat. I liked it. What did you guys think? The crackling is not to use. Wait, what? I don't know what you guys are talking about there. I'm reviewing lo-fi. I'm going to review a 10-hour lo-fi video. Otslot says he likes the drums. You guys are talking about vinyl. Grout's talking about illegal drug usage and is not condoned. So we'll move on. I don't know what's going on in my chat right now. Let's listen to JD Cappin. Oh, wait, what? I can't link this. All right, we'll listen to JD Cappin. He just sent a wave, so I will not be sharing it. This beat's called Whole Lotta. There was a problem playing this audio file. Looks like we are not going to be listening to JD Cappin. That's unfortunate for him. We got another person that sent it directly to me called Just Only. Let's see if this one works. It does. This beat's called Siren. Stop that beat. I can't listen to that one. I don't know if you didn't put a limiter on that beat, but there's just so much distortion. I had to put the volume down to like 25%, and people were still saying their ears are currently bleeding. So I apologize to my listeners. Yeah, slap a limiter on your beat because there's just so much distortion. I could not even hear what was happening. So let's move on to a new keyword and listen to a submissions chat beat here. The new keyword is going to be horsefly. Everyone hates a good horsefly. So horsefly is the keyword. Instructions right above my head. So I'm going to listen to a beat from the Discord. Let's listen to this one. Adon Beats Ayub. It's called Greed. That was Greed by Adon Beats. So I think the way to approach this criticism, I assume this is going to be one of the first beats this person's ever made. And so a lot of you guys in the chat are saying the structure gets repetitive. Grout says he listened to this beat earlier. It would have been a good idea to use automation for the gross beat or the gating. I'm not even going to go down the road of arrangement and structuring. I think, again, if you're just starting out making beats, focusing in on how to make a good central idea, a good loop is step number one. So we'll focus the criticism on that respect to the beat instead. I think, again, the one thing that I'll say that should be very helpful for this beat especially is that, again, the idea of having things sit in different planes. Everything in this beat was just right in my face. Everything, I think, who was that said? Soren said too dry. That's exactly what my feeling was. Everything was just right in my face. Nothing had a sort of sense of its own space, and it's sitting in a very distinct area of the beat, whether it's in the forefront, the middle ground, or the background. Some of the instrumentation was very strange, like that piano key playing the same thing for 4 notes in a row. That by itself would not be automatically something that I would hate. I think there are some people that say, you need some more musicality. And I think there are times when just having the same note repeat can sound cool in a beat. Nonetheless, I think the reason why it wouldn't have worked in this beat is just because a texture like that, an idea like that would be something small in the beat that you just sort of throw in the background that would just intrigue the listener a little bit. Whereas this, just because it's so dry and in my face, it sort of feels like it's supposed to be a very big focal point in the beat, and an idea that basic would not really work as just a sort of main idea in the beat. So if I had to give some advice in terms of how to improve, focus in on where different sounds sit, whether it be panning or the use of reverb, and try to figure out how you can make certain ideas like the central focus point and how your beat will sound if you just try to reduce some sounds in terms of where they sit or even the volume, and just try to get a better balance in terms of your main loop. And at that point, understanding arrangement and whatnot, all the other stuff, that's sort of down the road. I wouldn't worry about that too much. If you're trying to improve your beats as of right now, that's where I would start. Horsefly beats. Here we go. Let's listen to these horsey beats. Did that guy send the exact same beat after I said to put a limiter on his beat? Let's listen to L. Ron Hubbard. Wait, what? He submitted his beat. Oh, wait. L. Ron, for some reason, put his link on the opposite side of the screen, and I didn't see it last time. I can't even copy this link. What the hell's going on here? All right, so L. Ron Hubbard, he's got a Scientology type beat. Let's take a listen. Hopefully we get some converts after this. He's got this beat called Osaka Nightlife. Let's take a listen. Second, let me write down my last thought here. So this beat, I think you guys are on the nose in terms of what the chat is saying. Hesse beat said right there, no one can rap on this. I think overall there's just a lot going on in the beat, especially with that overpowering 808 and just how much textures you have in the beat at all times. I think it's hard to it would be hard for a rapper to use this as a beat just because there's just so much going on in terms of the overall structure as well. You did a good job of keeping things different. I think obviously one of the things that gets on my nerves sometimes is the same thing repeating over and over again. So at least you didn't do that, which is good. It sounds like you have the ability to create variation in your beat, which is a good thing. You have a good understanding of how to layer different sounds on top of another, which is a good thing. I think you have a sort of good skill set, but I think the execution here could be a little bit better. Knowing when to use which of your tools that you have in your skill set is important. The overall structuring of the beat could have been better if you just sort of minimized a section. There's a sort of section at the very end of the beat here. The 808 was still a little bit out of control, but if we listen to this section here, like if you reduce the 808 in that section and had that be the sort of verse and sort of had that little minimal amount of layers in the beat, that might have worked a little bit better where you had that as a verse, and then some of the other sections in your beat would be like the chorus. Whereas for this beat, you had just so much going on at all times, and there was just only this one brief little moment where it felt like, okay, this is enough to be, this would be enough to work as a beat, but that only lasted like 4 seconds. So I think you have a good skill set. You know how to put sounds together. You can come up with complex arrangements, which is a good idea. I think just reeling it in and not being as audacious and not wanting to do so much at all times and show off your skill set, that might be something that could be helpful to you. Think about who you're trying to serve. Think about the artist that you're trying to work with, instead of trying to, have this BPA showcase for all that you can do. Really try to reel it back and try to help out an artist in terms of what their idea is, because I guess that's at the end of the day what you're trying to do if you're trying to be a music producer. Otsot says, what are horseflies? They are huge flies that are very mean. They bite you and they hurt your feelings. Next up, let's listen to let's listen to Soren's beat. Soren, who's a good dude, he's been riding with me for a while. He's heart full of gold. So let's listen to him. Is he in the thing here? Soren? Yeah, he is in here. Let's listen to his beat called In the Works. Why isn't it popping up? What's happening here? Come on now. I'll just click it and see what happens. Good God. It's taking me to the website now. Oh, he's got Scarface as the picture. Like Soren said, the idea is not complete, so that's all he's come up with so far. The chat's loving it. I think I'm with them on what they're saying. The spacing, like Chivalrous said, that was amazing spacing. The way you used the key textures and added the perfect amount of reverb on it and just had it sitting perfectly. And the beat, that's exactly what I was sort of talking about. You had the keys, the sort of focal point of the beat, sit in the sort of middle ground, and then you had your drum sitting right sort of in front, and you had like the synth pads, the sort of spacey sorts of sounds in the way back, sort of like the perfect job of spacing, which is exactly what I was sort of alluding to earlier. Cool vibe. I have nothing negative to say about it. I'd really love to hear what the final product would sound like. So hopefully in the future, next stream possibly, if he's done, we'll take a listen to what he's come up with. No pressure though, if it takes longer than that. Nice fade, nice mixing separation, cool perks, nice depth. Yeah, pretty much. They're playing synthwave in the club and you're standing outside smoking a cig type beat. Cyberpunk vibes. Cool beat. Yeah, I really loved it. I'm a fan of sort of lo-fi house music right now. That sort of gave me that feeling. Let's move on now to who's someone that I have not gotten to yet. Let us listen to Klaus Berend. Berend. He's got this beat called Rich Rich. Let's take a listen. Why is it taking forever to open now? Yeah, whatever. I'll just go to this site directly. Rich Rich by Classic. Alright, so that was Rich Rich by Klaus Berend. What the hell's playing now? So in terms of my critique, I would say it might be a good idea to bring up the volume of the main sample and sort of have that be a little bit louder in the beat. I think someone said in the chat that the beat sort of feels a little bit bare, and that's something that you might feel compelled to like start adding more instrumentation on top whenever you run into that problem. But honestly, just increasing the amount of space a sound takes up in the beat can easily just solve that problem. So if you just brought up the sample a tiny bit and maybe even added a little bit of reverb, or just make the sample, the loop take up a little bit more room in the beat, that might be enough to make the beat overall have a better balance. Overall, the arrangement, you had variation in it, which was great. You tried to push the idea. It can be really, really difficult to try to come up with a more complicated variation in your arrangement, especially when you're using loops, just because they're so static and you can't really make much adjustments to them. And you sort of did this thing where when you had that main synth play, you introduced the sample a tiny bit, so you had that bell play for just like one note, and then you had the synth play, then you had the bell play for one note, and then you brought the bells loop back in. So that was really smart. I noticed that was a small detail, but smaller details like that can really push the beat to be something special. I would say that my one qualm with the beat was, I think a lot of people in the chat said it as well, the sound selection on that synth, it didn't really complement the main loop that you had, they sounded like very disjointed, disconnected types of sounds. The main loop is like a vocal and a very acoustic bell, and then you have a sort of very bare synth, and so that the textures don't really work with each other. Again, that's one of the difficulties of using loops. It's very hard to come up with sounds that complement the sounds that come with the loop, just because it requires some more extreme sound design knowledge, and so that might be difficult. But yeah, overall, I think you have a good idea here. The small little things that I pointed out might help out in terms of the finished product. I think you mentioned that you've already wrote to the beat, but nonetheless, hopefully the things that I mentioned can help improve the beat a tiny bit. What are you guys saying? What is happening in this chat? There's a lot of words, and I'm very illiterate, so I'm just going to move on. None of the stuff was a loop, says Klaus. That's interesting. I would have assumed for sure that bell and the vocal was a loop, so if that's the case, it should be a little bit easier to have the arrangement be a little bit varied, because you have a little bit more control of your sounds. But yeah, hopefully what I said could help you out. We'll do one horsefly beat, another Discord, and then we'll do one more keyword, and then I'm gonna go eat some food. So let's listen to Gabby. She is a beginner at beat making. She's in the Discord, so I will link is that her username? Hopefully that's her. If not, I have made a fool of myself, but she's got a New York, UK drill beat called Run. Let's take a listen.
Yo, Gabi. Yo, Gabi.
So that was New York, UK drill type beat by Gabby. Great variation in the beat. You kept it moving. You kept things interesting. You had a good conception of the structuring process. It sounds like you know how to make sure the beat doesn't sound repetitive. Cool use of unusual sounds. Those sort of arpeggiating synths are something you'd commonly hear, which is something that I always like whenever producers use textures that isn't particularly native to the genre. So cool job on that. I think one of the things is that you might have used like a preset for the synth. I'm not sure if that's something that you programmed yourself, but it sounded like there's like a modulating panning. It was going left and right in the speaker. And so I think if an artist was going to use that, that might be something that might be a little bit distracting. Typically, those types of sounds are sort of supplementary in your beat. And that's the reason why they are sort of created to have like these wacky panning effects like that. They are sort of aren't made to be the centerpiece of the beat. And so if I were you, I would just go into the preset and maybe turn off the modulation and sort of have that sound be a little bit more central and try to control it a little bit more. I think that might have served the beat a little bit better. That's just a small little detail. Obviously, I'm almost nitpicking at this point. And the synth, I guess the drums were, the pattern that you came up with was obviously a drill pattern, so you obviously did a good job on that. They sort of, I would have liked it to be a little bit more in my face. It'll be brought up a tiny bit and the synth be brought down a tiny bit. But again, I feel like I'm nitpicking at this point. I think you did a good job of coming up with a unique, interesting take on drill. I love synthy arpeggiating sounds, so yeah, I was a fan of it. Good job to Gabby on that one. We will... Oh, Gabby is a guy. I have made a fool of myself. I apologize, Gabby. I knew a Gabby in school, and it was a girl. So I just assumed your gender. Anyways, we will listen to one Discord beat, and then we will do the final keyword, the most influential keyword, the biggest keyword that we've had yet. It's going to be elephant. Hopefully you guys can spell elephant. If not, you're not going to get your beat heard. So let's listen to the final beat from the prior submissions. And then we will listen to the elephant beats. Hey, that's me. I want to listen to this wacky one because this picture's weird. Let's listen to Leon's beat, Unease. right, so that was Unease by Leon. So when he said something funny in the chat, what was it? Jerome said, so this is what the Inquisitors listened to in the 15th century. Funny. So I think the main takeaway from the beat is it felt like the textures were on point. You had a good mix of sounds and they all complemented each other well. I think the amount of sounds that you used at every single point of the beat was where you went wrong. Some of the people in the chat were saying that you should control the reverb, and that's going to be something that could help. And obviously, they're right. Sending your reverb to a bus and controlling it that way is obviously something that would be helpful. But in this case, I don't think that's the main issue with the beat. I just think that there's just way too much going on at all times, and it just didn't really feel like it was structured out in a way that would be conducive to rapping. It felt like it was a soundtrack almost that had like a trap drum pattern on top of it. There's this one section in the beat. Let me see if I can find it. There's like that short switch up that I think if you use that as the main part of the beat, the verse section, like if that idea was the verse section of the beat and you sort of minimized everything down and then you saved all the big parts for like the hook or like the bridge and just have a better interplay between which sounds are playing when, I think that would have really helped the beat out. As you structure the beat out as it is right now, just way too much going on in the beat at all times, and the overall structure is where the beat was hurt. So yeah, a lot of the things that you guys are saying in the chat, don't underestimate EQing. Reverb makes the sounds muddy at parts. Those are definitely true, but to me, that's not like my main issue with the beat. I think the first and foremost thing to clean up this beat would be to just structure it out a tiny bit better. So we will do the Elefantes, the elephant beats, and then we will get out of here. Someone's submitting again. Klaus Beyrend. Usually I only listen to one person's beat a stream, so if you submit again, I already got to your beat, so I'm probably not going to get to another one. I want to do other people's beats, like this fella right here. He said he just started producing a month ago. He wants me to review his beat. And he says I'm the sexiest man he's ever seen. So that's very nice. His name's Carl H. I will put his name in the chat. And let's take a listen to Carl's beat called Rising, a West Coast beat, 96 BPM, which is a rarity nowadays. I'm always a fan of the older types of beats, so let's take a listen. Carl's beat called Rising. Like you said, he just started, did he say like a month ago, I think? I just started producing a month ago. So I'll keep that in mind in terms of my criticism, in terms of what my opinion is on how this beat could be improved. I think the drums are on point. I think you get a good job of having them sound powerful and sit right in the front. I think the thing that I would take away is that there was just sort of it's like a lack of low end. There was no, the kick was the only thing that was providing the low end, and so there was no like bass line in the beat, and there was no like 808 pattern either. I think that was something that was missing from the beat. So maybe one thing that you could do is add like a very dense synth bass for like the hook section of the beat. The overall beat, you had the same sort of idea playing throughout the whole beat, but again, I don't want to put too much on your plate and say you need more variation just because this is your first month of making beats. I'm not gonna expect all that much in terms of your skill set for where you are. I think just first play around with the idea of coming up with a bass line for the beat. That would be something that would help bring the beat to a new level in terms of its overall cohesion, just because it felt like the entire beat was lacking a low end. And also, I think you did a good job of having the drums sit in the front, the piano sit in the mid ground. I think maybe just adding some additional little sounds here and there and just throwing the reverb on it and just seeing how that sounds. As of right now, you just had the drums and the piano, and there weren't many textures outside of that. So just playing around with the, like, you know, a little percussion noise and adding some reverb on it and see how that sounds. It can really help bring such a more additional layer of depth to the beat. And as of right now, it sort of felt a little bit two-dimensional in terms of it was just being the drums and the piano. And so there wasn't any bass line that really helped bring the beat to a sort of full, complete feel, nor was there a sort of background. So playing around with those elements might be something that you might want to try in order to improve your beat. So yeah, give that a shot. Yeah, clean mix. So that would be something that I give you the thumbs up on. The sounds that you did have in the beat were very clean, which is great. Let's listen to another beat here by Sean Pumper. He flipped a beat. This is too much for me to read right now. I gotta keep it moving. This is Reaping Trillo, Chemist the Menace. Let's take a listen to this beat.
In order to understand the street drug, it's vital to understand the technique of a street chemist.
Really cool, unique, interesting sounds in the beat. Very out there, which I liked. The overall feel of the beat is like a sort of evil, menacing type of beat, which again I also liked. It had a cool energy to it. I think in terms of the textures overall, the main synth that you had, it sort of had a modulating filter effect on it where it peeled back and you got a lot of the high frequencies and then it peeled down to get a lot of the low frequencies. I sort of felt like the modulation was a little bit too extreme. It was something that had the beat feeling constantly unbalanced just because you had like a sort of huge varying feel in terms of how many frequencies we're getting in the beat at all times. And so maybe making that variation a little bit less extreme might be a good idea. The arrangement was varied. You kept it moving, you kept things changing, you introduced certain textures in, removed certain textures out throughout the beat, so good job on that. You didn't do the exact same thing over and over again. I would say that the way the beat is structured, what you had as the verse section, the amount of layers that you had in it was a little too much, I would say. I think what you had as a verse section might work better as the hook section. One of the things that might be like the scariest or the most hard to do when you're putting your beat out there or giving it to the artist is having it be minimal enough to the point where it can be used, but minimal, I guess, there being enough in it where you feel like the beat sounds good. And so a lot of times us as producers, we want to shove ideas into the beat and have a lot going on just because we think that's going to be something that the artist will like or the listener will like, but there is a sort of bravery to keeping things minimal and just having something very almost simple be the main idea and then playing around with complication throughout the beat in different sections around that. I think the main idea you had in the beat was a little bit too dense. There was a section in the beat, I think, again, right here. So I think if you just like loop this section here, and then you added drums and had that be the verse section, I think that would have been a cool idea. And again, you can just do small things to create variation, but just having the main verse section, the main idea of your beat be a little bit smaller, and then using those other textures that you had in the beat to create variation. I think overall the structure would have been a lot better if you did that. So overall, cool idea, cool textures. I think just the execution and the overall arrangement and the structuring could have had the beat sound a little bit more balanced and better. I am the villain confirmed, as Swift Dreamer says. All right, you guys are having a discussion of your own here about mixing, so I'll let you go on. We'll do a couple more beats and then we'll call it an evening. Once again, guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you again for voting for me in the contest. It was a big ask. You guys went out of your way to click links and click thumbs up and click hearts and press play. So thank you very much. Because of you guys, we got second place on a beat that was heard far less and had far less attention on it than everyone else's. And that's definitely because of you guys, so thank you. And also, thank you to Grout once again. He is the heart and soul of this. He's really keeping things in check. He's the one that set up the Discord. He's the guy that's helping everyone out in terms of the stream. So thank you, Grout. You're a good dude, and thank you to everyone that showed up. You're all good eggs. No one was mean today. We kept it very cordial, polite, and lovely, which is something you always want to see. So we'll do a couple more beats here. We got one from Bronze Panther. That sounds sexy. Wait, is it Bronze Panther or Black Panther? I got no idea. Let's take a listen to this beat. Is he in the... There he is, Bronze Panther. He's got this Essence beat called... It's called Essence. It's a boom bap trap beat. I don't know how that's possible, but let's take a listen.
Bronze Panther.
that was Essence by Black Panther or Bronze Panther. First off, I want to say sorry to everyone who didn't get their beat heard. I know it is frustrating and it sucks, but I'm literally getting hundreds of emails every single time I stream, so it's going to be impossible for me to get to everyone's beat. Again, just because I do like to give more in-depth feedback, so just the name of the game. I'm sorry. It's just how it's got to be. Moving on to the beat, I think it was too straightforward. Like the drum pattern that you used was just way too straightforward. It's like a kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. You said it's a boom bap trap type of beat. I didn't really get a feeling of either of those types of genres in the beat. It sounded like you just used stock sounds and you just didn't do any manipulation to them. You just used them as they are. I think just overall, just a very straightforward, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like unremarkable. It just felt like nothing stood out to me. Everything was very straightforward. No risks were taken. It didn't really feel like something that even fits into the hip hop genre, which obviously I'm not going to criticize you for. There are other types of beats that we listened to tonight, which were like more lo-fi dance and like very four on the floor, but this didn't really feel like it took any risks whatsoever in terms of its drum arrangement, in terms of the sounds that he used, in terms of the overall structure. It's very plain, very straightforward. So for this producer, I would say be more audacious, do something unique, because this beat just felt like something that you just find as like a template. When you open up FL Studio, it has those template beats, those very stock sounding beats. This sort of felt like that, where nothing felt interesting to me overall. One last beat and then we'll close her out. When I get hungry, I get honest. I've been honest this whole time. Come on now. All right, last beat of the night. Once again, thank you for showing up. You're all good eggs. We'll listen to Swift Dreamer. He's got big dreams, came into town with big dreams, and now he's on the scene. So let's see if his dreams come true, or whether this will be a nightmare of a beat. See what I'm doing, guys? Burleezy, Better Than This. Swift Dreamer, thank you guys for coming. Swift Dreamer with Better Than This. This is a good example of what I was talking about before, where he kept the verse section minimal. He didn't have overcomplication, but he was still able to create variation. So he just had like a very minimal piano loop, but then he still added these little textures throughout the verse section to create a little bit of variation, a little bit of intrigue in the beat. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Did a great job of doing that and just being audacious and not trying to stuff the beat in order to have it sound very full to show off his skill set. He just made a good beat to be used here. The mixing was clean. It felt, again, this is not like a mixing channel. This is more focused on overall composition, but yeah, it's a clean mix. Everything had a good space in the beat. I think if a rapper were to use this, maybe having the vocal part during the verse section be as loud as it is might not be something that the artist might run into problems with conflicting vocals. So you might maybe even put a low pass filter during the verse section. Nonetheless, overall, it's just a simple idea executed well. This is exactly what I was talking about before. You had a simple loop, but you sort of kept it as minimal as it should have been during the verse. You had small variation throughout the beat, and you had the hook, which is your vocal sample. Yeah, this is like exactly what a beat should do in terms of its overall arrangement, structure, and the ideas that you put into it. So yeah, good job Swift Dreamer don't really have much in terms of criticism. You did a great job here. There you go, guys. I'm gonna go eat a burger because I'm hungry. Thank you guys for showing up. You're all beautiful people, and we will do this again in 2 weeks. Again, sorry if I didn't get to your beat. Gotta be patient. I'm gonna do a better job of trying to hear new producers as much as I can, so I'm not gonna listen to the same people over and over again. But yeah, thank you for showing up. So if you didn't get your beat heard this